Summertime, excuse the bird outside my window, summertime beach read recommendations. Hi, my name is Sharon and today I have 15 book recommendations which I think are perfect for the summer if you're looking for a beach read. I've already done 2 other recommendation videos. One was summer romance books and the other was summer thrillers. I'll link them down below. And I guess these ones are more general contemporary fiction, women's fiction, some lit fic as well. First book, China Rich Girlfriend by Kevin Kwan. This is the second book in the Crazy Rich Asian series. I don't think we're getting a second film, so you might as well read the book. The characters Rachel and Nick from the first book are getting married and they're planning their wedding in this one, except Rachel finds out who her estranged father is, and it just so happens that he's a billionaire who lives in Shanghai. So this story takes her to China, where she rubs shoulders and she gets caught up in the lives of Shanghai's elite. This book and the series in general is just really fun, catty, and I just love rich people drama. Sylvia's second act by Hilary Yablon. You're following an elderly woman who lives in a retirement home with her husband, and then one day she walks in on her husband cheating on her, and to top it all off, he has lost their entire life savings. So she decides to leave him. She leaves the retirement home and she moves back to the city to make something of her life again. She gets back in the wedding planning industry, so you're following her journey. This is marketed as an older Sex and the City. I don't know if it was quite as glamorous, but this definitely was really fun. I literally had the best time. The audiobook was so good and it actually had me laughing to myself. Definitely read this if you like an elderly protagonist and you're looking for something feel good. The Identicals by Elin HIlderbrand. I discovered Elin HIlderbrand last year. I love her writing and she's definitely the queen of beach reads. Besides her winter series, so many of them can be read in the summertime, like The Hotel Nantucket, 28 Summers, Summer of 69, but this one, The Identicals, follows 2 estranged twin sisters. One of them lives on Nantucket and she's seemingly more put together. She runs a fashion boutique and she also has a teenage daughter, and the other one lives on Martha's Vineyard and she's definitely the more laid back one, more of a free spirit, and they decide to swap lives to help each other out. I really enjoyed this one. This might actually be one of my favourites from Elin HIlderbrand. I just love her writing style and the slice of life in her books. The next book is also an Elin HIlderbrand book. I decided to limit myself for only 2 Elin HIlderbrand books for this video. It's The Rumour. It's not quite my favourite. There are some pretty unlikable characters here, but did I still eat this up? Yes, I did. Again, this one is set on the island of Nantucket, like most of our other books. You have 2 women who are best friends, and you just watch their lives unravel. One of the women is an author, and she has writer's block until she starts taking some inspiration from her best friend. And her best friend is a stay-at-home mum and wife who's working on this new garden project, and her new gardener catches her eye. If you've read Elin HIlderbrand books before, you'll know that the cheating trope is pretty common in like the majority of her books. In fact, have I read an Elin HIlderbrand book with no cheating? I'm not sure I have. Her characters are definitely flawed and a little bit annoying sometimes, but I'm here for the drama. And again, I just love her writing style. I love how she can make the most mundane things seem really interesting in the characters' lives. She always has the most amazing food descriptions. Ms. Mebel Goes Back to the Chopping Block by Jessie Q. Sutanto. This is a women's fiction that leans towards more light-hearted and comedic. This actually gives kind of rom-com vibes. If you have read the Vera Wong series, also by Jessie Q. Sutanto, then Mebel is a bit like Vera Wong, but she's the more glamorous version. Mebel is a trophy wife in her 60s when her husband leaves her for their much younger private chef. She decides that she's going to try win him back, so she enrolls herself onto a culinary course in Paris, but then through some mishaps she ends up in Cowley in the UK. She is Chinese Indonesian, so she does get a bit of a culture shock when she comes to England. You're basically following her misadventures and her character growth. This was a really light-hearted and charming read. Women of Good Fortune by Sophie Wan. This one is about 3 friends who are all facing different struggles as women. One of them is marrying into a very affluent family in high society Shanghai. The 3 of them then start to plan a heist, and they're going to to steal the cash gifts from this wedding, and they think that this money will alleviate all their problems and give them freedom and independence. I never see anyone talk about this one. It's quite underrated, but I really enjoyed it. I think it has a good balance of the more serious topics like patriarchy, the expectations that are put onto women, versus the more lighter aspects of this book, like the heist, which is more comedic. The Daydreams by Laura Hankin. This is a contemporary fiction / drama that's quite addictive and twisty, like a thriller, but it's not a thriller. It's about a group of teenagers who are on a hit teen TV show that unfortunately ended in a disaster, and then over a decade later they all come back together again for a reunion special, and this is when so many secrets come to light. I love me some celebrity gossip and pop culture. This is definitely also a cautionary tale about fame and child stardom. You definitely feel for some of the characters. I think I can see parallels between some of the characters and real life celebrities, especially from the early 2000s era. This was messy, scandalous, and full of plot twists as well. And then technically this one should have gone in my other video, Summer Romance Books. The Summer I Turned Pretty by Jenny Han. This is a YA romance, and I don't really know if it actually needs an introduction. It definitely took the internet by storm, particularly last year with the final season. And you're basically following this teenage girl called Belly who is caught between two brothers. I can't even tell you if I'm Team Conrad or Team Jeremiah. I don't actually know if I was Team anyone by the end of it, but I did enjoy the series overall. I definitely liked the first book the most out of all the books, and then I also liked the first season out of all the seasons. And I don't know if this is an unpopular opinion, but I love a love triangle. A Gorgeous Excitement by Cynthia Weiner. I'm not sure if I pronounced the surname correctly. This one feels like a bit of a weird girl book. It's a historical fiction set in 1980s New York, and you're following an 18-year-old girl's wild summer before she heads off to college in the fall. There are some problems for her back at home, but outside of the home, she's experiencing boys, partying, drinking, substances. Honestly, I only picked this one up because I saw someone describe it as Gossip Girl but set in the 80s, and it's kind of not. A Gorgeous Excitement is definitely a lot darker and depressing in its tone. I think there are parallels, but the things that happen in Gossip Girl are definitely a lot more glamorous and romanticised, whereas this one's a lot more serious. So I would recommend this if you're looking for more of a literary fiction for the summertime. This book made me think of you by Libby Page. This one's a contemporary women's fiction that can also be classed as romance, I think. This is for fans of P.S. I Love You. You're following a woman whose husband passed away 5 months earlier, but one day she gets a call from her local bookshop, and it turns out her husband has left her a parting gift. He's gifted her 12 books, one for each month for the first year that he's gone, and he hopes these books will navigate her through her grief. It definitely has a sad and heartbreaking blurb, but I do feel like this book was actually more uplifting more than anything. I think this is a good one for the summer because these books and the letters from her husband really inspire her to live life to the fullest, and she does do a lot of travelling in this one. It's quite P.S. I Love You but also Eat, Pray, Love. She goes to some really nice destinations. I think this one was a sweet story about moving on after grief and finding yourself. Cover Story by Susan Rigetti. This one's a contemporary fiction which kind of leans into mystery thriller. You're following a struggling and desperate NYU student who befriends a girl during her Elle magazine internship, and she gets a taste of the glamorous life, and then everything spirals. I'm pretty sure this book is inspired by Anna Delvey, who you might have heard of before. She's a real life con artist, and I think there have been a bunch of shows and documentaries about her. This book is quite interesting, and it shows you what lengths people will go to get what they want and for success. Last Night at Chateau Marmont by Lauran Weisberger. I will admit I read this as a literal child. I remember being so excited when I borrowed it from the adult section of the library. So I really don't remember any of the details, but I just remember thinking it was so scandalous when I was a child. This is a contemporary fiction, and it's written by the same author of The Devil Wears Prada. This story follows a woman who has always been really supportive of her husband, who is a struggling singer-songwriter. Then he finally lands himself a record deal and he becomes a star overnight, and this completely turns their lives upside down. I don't even remember what happened at the end of this. I literally only remember the bare bones of the plot, but this is the kind of storyline that I want for my beach reads. Rumoured by Kelly and Kristina Mancaruso, another one about celebrities, and this one's a mixed media mystery. This one's about a fictional pop star called Harlow Hayes, and she has been accused of unaliving someone, and then you're following the reporter who decides to investigate this case. You also have news articles, social media posts, and song lyrics from Harlow Hayes, so this is a pretty fun read. Harlow Hayes is so Taylor Swift coded, so I definitely recommend if you like Tay, pop culture, and mysteries. Margo's Got Money Troubles by Ruthie Thorpe. This recently came out not too long ago as a series on Apple TV, and I think they might even be getting a second season. Elle Fanning plays Margo, but she actually also narrates the audiobook. So Margo is like this 19-year-old, I think, and she gets pregnant by her college professor. She decides to keep her baby and he wants absolutely nothing to do with it. Margo, however, is completely not equipped to be dealing with the baby, and through her financial struggles she decides to get an OnlyFans. This definitely leans more literary fiction, but it's also quite quirky and humorous. And I wouldn't say I'm the biggest fan of pregnancy or new mum stories, but I found this one to be really charming. And the last book on this list, Surfside Sisters by Nancy Thayer. I was actually searching for authors like HIlderbrand because I just wanted more beach reads for this summer, and I came across Nancy Thayer, who is also an author from Nantucket. You're following a teenage girl who has always dreamed of leaving her home on Nantucket Island. Her and her best friend have always been inseparable, but they do lead very different lives. Her best friend is from an extremely privileged and wealthy family, whereas our protagonist goes through a lot more hardships, but they do have one thing in common, and they both aspire to be authors. So in this book you follow the protagonist, her love life, how she works towards her dream of becoming a writer, and also this friendship between her and her best friend. It took me a while to get into this at first, and I didn't realise so much of this book would be about them being teenagers. It's kind of a coming of age story, but it actually spans several years, so you follow the characters going into adulthood as well. But then I did get really invested in the main character's storyline. I definitely think this would make for a really good beach read. There's so much drama. You do have some pretty unlikable characters as well. I'm only 2/3 of the way through, so I haven't finished this yet. I have no idea how it's going to end, but I'm enjoying myself. I'm rooting for the main character, and ever since I discovered HIlderbrand, I just love a story that's set in Nantucket. I probably will try to read more of Nancy Thayer after this. So those were my 15 book recommendations. Hopefully you found something you would want to add to your summer TBR. If you liked this video, please like or subscribe. It would really help the channel out. I post book recommendation videos. I read a lot of thrillers, but also other genres as well. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in my next video.